The United stand, Gyokeres, why Manchester United and Ruben Amorim have to walk away from this deal. Should Manchester United take Rashford back? Would Ruben Amorim want to take Rashford back, as his future looks very uncertain, with some rumours saying he's willing to come back to Manchester United? Would you want that to happen? With Cunha and Mbeumo behind him, would it work? Would you be able to forgive that? Some news on Antony as well, the exit. Do Manchester United need to kick up a notch and be more firm when it comes to selling players? Incomings, they're getting better, but outgoings, Real Betis again trying their luck with another interesting, I would say, and below par offer for Antony. Do we just let him go, or do we try and hold firm and wait for a better offer to come in? I also have a little bit of opinion regarding Andre Onana, as he is set to stay at Manchester United now. Other striker targets, Ekitike and Gonzalo Ramos, I'm going to have my opinions on them. But everyone, get interactive in the comments and let me know your thoughts. Interesting weekend. I was away for the weekend. I wasn't on the United stand, but I have plenty of thoughts that I want to bring in on Gyokeres and Ekitike, and also Marcus Rashford as well. Get your comments in down below. Seen Mark over the weekend talking a lot about how certain Manchester United fans have said, you know what, now Gyokeres doesn't want to come to us because he wants to go to Arsenal. Let's go for other targets. When in fact Manchester United fans need to kind of look at the reality of the situation. United are in 15th place and they don't have Champions League football to offer. However, I'm one of the people that he was talking about. I don't want to go for Gyokeres anymore, and I'll explain my reasons for that in a second. But get your comments in down below and let me know what you're feeling, what you're thinking. Also, I'll just bring this in at the start. There was updated news coming out literally just before the show about how Mbeumo is still keen on moving to Manchester United. Manchester United is still his favoured option. Spurs do have interest, but he still is leaning towards joining Manchester United. It was new reports, but it's the same news. So we're not going to talk about the news that has been swirling for the last 2 weeks. There was a scare out there about Mbeumo going to Spurs. I don't think Mbeumo is going to Spurs. I just don't think it's going to happen. From what I've told, he's firmly on the pathway of wanting to join Manchester United. And that's going to, it says very smooth transition. They are exactly the type of players that Manchester United should be going for. We can sit here all day long. I mean, Mark can say, I still want to go for Gyokeres. I still would go for Gyokeres. Why do we want a player that doesn't want us? This seemed like an open goal. Relationship with Ruben Amorim has a fee that is attainable for Manchester United, the 60 million euros plus 10 million euros in add-ons, yet it's not materialised in the slightest, this deal. Why isn't it materialised? Because Gyokeres does not want Manchester United as his priority club. Manchester United know that, so they took a step back. We went for Delap because of the future, because of the wages, because of the fee, and because of the relationship with Wilcox and what he could provide for us in overall value. That didn't work out. We thought this recruitment team felt like we had a real chance of getting Delap. He ended up going to Chelsea. You take the rejection, you move on. Why is United not lodged a bid for Gyokeres? Why has there not been reports from Ornstein or Romano saying serious concrete talks being held by Gyokeres camp and Manchester United's camp? We would love to go for Gyokeres. Ruben Amorim would love to go for Gyokeres. Ruben Amorim's been in conversation with Gyokeres. United would love to sign Gyokeres. We have a great relationship with Sporting. We can negotiate with Sporting. It's a decent fee. It's a very good fee, actually, for the output that Gyokeres has, his age, his profile, and what he's been able to do over the course of his career, especially within the last couple of years. It seems like an open goal. Why hasn't it happened? Because Gyokeres is giving his preference to Arsenal. I don't want to be, no matter where Manchester United are, and this might be big-headed, this might be red-tinted glasses, this might be being cocky as a United fan, but I do not want to be a team that is waiting around to see if Gyokeres can get an Arsenal move. We need a striker now. We can't afford to wait. What basically is happening, because we spoke about this with Ben Jacobs on the show as well, and we have Ben Jacobs tomorrow, so that'll be really interesting to get a new and updated report on that. But what is basically happening is Manchester United need a striker now. Ruben Amorim needs a striker for pre-season. He's stated many times to the Manchester United recruitment team that he has to get his business done early. He needs his team together for pre-season and he wants to start working with players as soon as possible. United's priority going into this window was a striker. We came to the conclusion Delap was the best striker for us to go for. It didn't end up working out. Victor Gyokeres has always been someone that Manchester United wanted. Ruben Amorim has wanted him. We absolutely would go and get him, but he's saying to Manchester United, can we just wait? Because I want to see what happens with Arsenal and Sesko first before committing to you, because I'd rather go to Arsenal. I don't want that. I want a player that is sold on Ruben Amorim and is sold on this project. Okay, yeah, Champions League football is great, and obviously players want to play in the best competitions, and I would love to be in the Champions League if I was a player, but it's not as if it's forever. Manchester United's plan will be to get back into the Champions League as soon as possible, and with the team that we're trying to build, that could happen sooner rather than later. It seems like it seems like the Premier League are very likely to keep getting that 5th spot if the Premier League teams keep performing the way that they are doing. 5 places up for grabs in the Premier League, at least 4. Manchester United are trying to rebuild a squad to compete for that as soon as possible. It's no guarantees that any team is going to be in the Champions League year after year after year. I get where Gyokeres is at in his career, but I want players like Mbeumo, I want players like Cunha, top quality players, by the way. They're not players that we've just picked up from, teams that nobody even knows about in leagues that nobody watches, and that's no disrespect because you can get some gems. There has been some gems undiscovered from leagues and teams like that, but Cunha and Mbeumo are top Premier League players who had Champions League clubs come to them and offer them a project, offer them a really good contract and offer them a chance to play in the Champions League, in European competitions, and they have said no because they want to be a Manchester United player. They believe in Ruben Amorim's project and they believe in Manchester United, and they are the type of players that I want. So as much as I wanted Gyokeres, and I've said on this show I would happily take Gyokeres, he's got all the attributes that I would want from a Manchester United striker. I'm at the point now where if Arsenal do go for Sesko, which I think they're going to, based off, and again, I'm not claiming to have the best sources around, I just speak to people in the footballing industry. Based off people that I speak to in and around Arsenal, in the footballing industry, the feeling is that Arsenal will go for Sesko. They are basically lining up it's quite ironic, isn't it? Because they are lining up Gyokeres as a backup to the Sesko deal, because they don't know what they haven't managed to negotiate a fee yet with Leipzig, but Arteta's preference, it feels like, is Sesko. So Gyokeres is Arsenal's backup and we're Gyokeres' backup. I don't want to be anyone's backup. I want players that are committed to Manchester United and committed to Ruben Amorim and the project. So for me, I would be moving on. I would be swiftly moving on from that, because I feel like the striker saga could continue, and we don't want to get sucked into another saga. We had the De Jong saga. Isn't he going to join? He might join. We've agreed a fee with Barcelona, but the player doesn't really want us. We had the Sancho saga the year before we actually went and got him. Always feels like there's a saga with Manchester United, and we've seemed to turn that corner last season under Ineos. It was very like, we want this player. Is it going to materialise? Is it not? If it's not, we're going to move on to somebody else. And we get stuff done in that way. Todibo, we wanted him, remember that? Couldn't figure it out in terms of Nice and Manchester United. Moving swiftly on, Lenny Yoro, miles better signing anyway. So I don't want to linger around on this deal waiting to see what happens with Sesko and Arsenal. I want to move on. And a lot of people in the chat would say, go and get Osimhen. I'm going to talk about that in a second. And we might be able to read between the lines a little bit with Manchester United and the striker deals here, because I know a lot of people straight off the bat is like, don't want Ekitike, too expensive, learn a driver. There might be a really good reason why Manchester United are going to go for Ekitike. And I'll speak about that in a second as well, because I've had a little bit of clarity over the weekend. I've managed to sit back. I mean, I've done a lot in my personal life, but I've been listening to the shows, I've been looking at the football news. I've had time to sit back and think about things and think about this striker situation for Manchester United. And Gyokeres and Osimhen, I don't think it's going to be either one of them for Manchester United. And I've come to terms with that, and I'll explain why I don't think it's going to be Osimhen either, and why Manchester United aren't going in all guns blazing, bidding for Osimhen, because I couldn't understand why we weren't doing it. But I've had a long, hard think about it, and I think I can understand the reasons why now. Kelvin Phil says, I think Watkins will be a good addition. I keep hearing people talk about Watkins. For me, it's a no. Don't get me wrong. If he was one of the only options on the table, I would take him over what we've currently got. But he's 29, coming up to 30, and I think he's a good Premier League striker. Don't think he's got the capability to be absolutely top draw. Although Manchester United aren't in that position right now. We're not competing for Premier Leagues, are we? We're competing to get back into, let's be honest, like the top 5 right now, and even that's going to be a big jump. So Watkins could do a job, but there's not really much longevity in it at the top level, I don't think. Jacob Fatu says, Ineos made clear they'd walk to a decision. Well, they'd rather walk to the right decision than run to the wrong decision. And I still believe that is actually the right way to go about things, as long as we actually get to the right decision in time. Emily Derry says, seems like the striker market hinges on Arsenal, whether they'd go for Gyokeres or Sesko. Unfortunately, Arsenal aren't in a hurry right now. And Arsenal shouldn't be in a hurry. Like, they're not thinking about what Manchester United want. Like, they're not thinking about Manchester United in any terms. And I don't think they should be either. Like, that's our situation to sort out, and we should be sorting it out. Delap not picking us threw a massive spanner in the works. He was our preferred option over Gyokeres. Ben Jacobs has literally said that in the show, no matter what people try and wrap their heads around. And was that because all along they knew that Gyokeres was waiting for Arsenal and they didn't want to get entangled in a transfer summer saga? And I think that is the case. Eric Bacon says, absolutely horrific take on Gyokeres. Gyokeres would make us so much better. Gyokeres would make us so much better, but like, there's no doubt about that Gyokeres would make us better. I'm not saying he wouldn't. But if we want Gyokeres, we've got to wait for Arsenal to decide on Sesko, and then you've got a player that had you down as his second choice. Like, do you want that? Fair enough if you want that. I want players, despite us being where we are, I want players that, exactly what Ruben Amorim said, want to play for Manchester United and believe in this project wholeheartedly. That's what I want. If Gyokeres ended up happening, I'd be like, you know what, he's a massive upgrade on what we've got. But it still is a little bit like sour grapes, the fact he wanted Arsenal before us. I'd get over it. I would absolutely get over it. But I don't think Manchester United have time to wait around to see how that plays out. We need to go and get a striker. We need a striker in to work with his team and work in pre-season. That's what we need. It's our priority position. We don't have time to sit there and wait around for Gyokeres to make up his mind, or to see if Arsenal go for Sesko, or if Leipzig will agree with Arsenal price for Sesko and what they want. I've heard that Arteta wants Sesko. It's whether they can come to an agreement with Leipzig, and if they can't, they might move for Gyokeres. And Gyokeres is waiting for that. I don't want to be waiting around in the wings. And I think that's why we've not gone in with bids. Even though it was such an open goal, like, the price is right, fits Ruben Amorim loves him, and, you know, obviously his track record and the goals that he scored speak for himself. It's just the same as Osimhen. We'd love to sign Gyokeres, we'd love to sign Osimhen. Osimhen's fantastic, but is he willing to sit down with United and say, I want to sign for you, this is what we can do wage-wise, this is how we're looking to work together? Or is Osimhen there saying, I'm going to see what Juventus offer me, I'm going to see what PSG offer me, I'm going to see what Al Hilal offer me again, and then we can kind of negotiate from there? Because Manchester United need a player that's invested in them, in their project, and is willing to meet the wage demands that they are currently offering. I think Gyokeres would be able to come to the conclusion of getting a contract together and a wage. It's just, is he absolutely 100% on the project? No, because he's focused on Arsenal right now. And Osimhen, I think we would be able to kind of start negotiating with him, but he wants to wait around to see what other offers he's going to get, what other contracts he's going to get. Is he going to be able to be on the wage structure that Manchester United want all the players to be on, that they're currently on, in terms of bringing down their wage if we don't get European football? A team incentive-based wage, and Osimhen's already said that he doesn't want to do that, whether he'd be able to change his mind. And they're things that Manchester United have looked at. So they've not gone full throttle for Osimhen, they've not gone full throttle for Gyokeres, probably because both parties aren't overly keen on joining a 15th place Manchester United side that doesn't have European football. And that's why United probably initially went in for the lap, wage, age, and being able to negotiate with the player and the interest from the player's camp. They've not ended up being able to do that deal. Now it's like, can we get anything out of Gyokeres? Maybe if Arsenal don't go there. Osimhen, he's talking to a lot of clubs right now, and we are in desperate need of securing a striker. So Manchester United are calm, but they're focusing on getting that Mbeumo deal done, and then they're going to look again in the striker market and see what they can find. And that's why we've started to look at Ekitike, because Ekitike, despite the fact he's expensive, and I absolutely acknowledge that, and it is, again, another massive risk, a young player that isn't proven, and I think he's being priced out of a move by Frankfurt, who want too much money for him based off what he's done so far in his career. But initially was a United, I don't know if he still is, but childhood Manchester United fan, would be open to joining Manchester United, not a ridiculous wage, believes in Amorim and the project. Like, they're factors that Manchester United are going to look at. Does the player want us? Would we be able to negotiate a wage? Are they bothered about European football? Would they want to join us if we started to go and negotiate with Frankfurt? And Ekitike, I think, has given Manchester United the signal, I would. And that interests Manchester United and interests Ruben Amorim as well. Card History says, I bet you 50 chocolate buttons that Rasmus Højlund gets 25 goals this season with proper service. No to third or fourth choice signings. I don't agree with you that Højlund will get 25 goals, but I agree with you no to third or fourth choice, to be honest with you. Actually, no, I thought you meant no to third or fourth choice as in where the player's third or fourth choice. For example, Mateta's, I don't agree with that bit actually at the end, because Mateta is probably our fourth choice, maybe even lower than that, but I would absolutely take Mateta in a heartbeat. 100% I'd take Mateta. If Mateta saw Manchester United come in and wanted to join Ruben Amorim, wanted to join the project and was willing to play for Manchester United, it might not be the glitz and the glam, it might not be the name that everybody wanted, but he'd absolutely do a job for us. He would, and he would be an improvement on what we have. Keil Robinson says, I have no problem with paying a mercenary who will play for cash as long as they can play well. All we have to offer is cash. But isn't this what we've criticised Manchester United for before, though, in the past? Because I wanted to bring this in, right? We have a track record. This is not Richard Arnold and this is not John Murtough. This is not Ed Woodward. This is Ineos. This is Omar Barada, Jason Wilcox, Christopher Vivell. Experienced guys in the footballing world that will not be taken for a ride. Okay? This is the recruitment team we now have in place and the transfer team we now have in place, with other people, obviously, as well. If this was Ed Woodward, if this was John Murtough, if this was Richard Arnold, we might spend all summer trying to convince Gyokeres to join, throwing money at him, throwing a massive contract at him and you know, agent fees, etc., just to be turned away mid-August as he signs for Arsenal. We might have done that in the past. In the past, if Gyokeres had rejected us, we might have gone and paid, you know, Osimhen a silly wage to get him to Manchester United and taken the number 9 off Rasmus to do that, whether you agree with that or not. Like, we might have done that in the past to make sure we have a big, bold signing, a big headliner signing. But we have been very clear, and our recruitment team, whether you agree with it or not, have been very clear from the off. We want players who want to join this football club, not for them. Obviously, we can offer good money for players that deserve it, but they're not only joining us for a big pay packet. They're not only joining us because of the commercial side of things. They are joining us because they believe in Ruben Amorim and Manchester United and bringing this club back. We need a mix of both. I am with you. If it meant we had to pay 300 grand a week to Osimhen to get into Manchester United, I think he's probably deserving of that based off what he's done in his career and based off what he would bring to this team. But if he's not willing to be on the same structure of wage that everybody else is, that if you don't get Champions League football, you do take a cut, then I agree with Ineos not moving forward with that. If he is saying, look, guys, I am interested, but I want to wait until the first week of August because I want to see what Al Hilal's going to offer me, because they're probably going to come in with a massive offer and I just want to kind of weigh up my choices. I'm also not on board with that either. We need to know where we stand, and as much as I want Osimhen, I think he's absolutely fantastic. He was my first choice. There is certain barriers I'm not willing to cross. And it's the same with Gyokeres. I would love Gyokeres. I think he's super talented. You know, the goals that he scored, the output and the way, you know, his play style suits what Ruben Amorim wants to do, the relationship they have. I was massively on board with it. My top two options going into this summer was Osimhen top and Gyokeres second. But there are certain barriers that I'm not willing to cross to ensure these signings happen. And we've got to keep our wits about us, and we've got to stand strong on the elements that we're wanting from our signings. And that's where I'm at. You might be different, but I think there's certain things that we have to stick to our guns on. And I know that there's been a lot of talk about Ekitike, and I'm going to be completely honest, I don't know if Ekitike would be able to be successful at Manchester United. I've seen bits of him, I've looked at him, I've spoken to people that I trust in terms of watch a lot more football than I do in terms of the European leagues, the Bundesliga and, you know, leagues across Europe. I try and watch as much as I can. I know about Ekitike, tracked him for a while now since we've been linked to him, but I'm not as clued up on him as some other people that I speak to in the footballing world. And I've done like a little bit of a phoning around. I've scouted him myself. I've looked at him, but I don't know. I've not seen enough to sit here and say I know he'll be successful at Manchester United, because I don't. I know that he's a super exciting talent. I know that he's very well thought of within the industry. I know that him and Marmoush worked fantastically together at Frankfurt. I know that there is a lot of people within the footballing world that think very, very highly of him. I know that he's more than just a goal scorer, and I know he keeps being compared to Isak, and I don't really want to, you know, start doing that and put huge amounts of pressure on him. But there is definitely an exciting talent there. However, I have always been firm on the fact that we need experience, and I don't think I'm willing to take another risk on a young player. And it'd just be typical Manchester United, wouldn't it, that we got burnt from Rasmus Højlund. We've been burnt before with young players not being able to do it at United. We don't want to get burnt again. He goes to Liverpool, he goes to Chelsea, and he's absolutely a roaring success. And you think, why didn't Manchester United just do it? And this is where our recruitment team has to come into play. This is where Vivell has to come into play, Jason Wilcox has to come into play. Have you seen enough in this boy, in this player, that you know, despite the criticisms from the outside world, despite people saying United are going for another player that is young and inexperienced, that he will be successful? You've seen enough. You've seen the talent. You've seen the trajectory. You've seen, you know, the heights that he's destined to hit. You know that he will succeed. Do you know that? Are you willing to take that risk? Because he is overpriced. If you look at what Marmoush went for City, I know Marmoush is on a huge pay packet and Ekitike wouldn't be on that in Manchester United. He is overpriced for an unproven striker. But it always does catch my eye when Liverpool, this is the player Liverpool are going for. Liverpool have great recruitment. Liverpool, their recruitment over the years, of course there's been some that haven't gone according to plan, but their recruitment's usually pretty good. He's their top target, but they need to move on Darwin Núñez before they proceed in things. They need to sell before they, you know, can kind of meet that valuation that Frankfurt have put on Ekitike. I mean, they've just bought Wirtz for over £100 million. So they need to do a bit of business before they go there. But Ekitike is interesting. And the reason Ekitike is interesting, and the reason why I think Manchester United have gone there is because he would say yes to the project. He's a fan of Manchester United and he would be willing to get on board with this project. But, you know, I'd be willing to get on board with the project, and I'm not capable of playing for Manchester United. So you've got to draw the line as well. You've got to have that side of things, but you've also got to have the talent and the work ethic, the right mentality. And that's exactly what we're doing with Cunha and Mbeumo, in my opinion. And we need more players that follow in that direction. But that's why I think Manchester United are linked to Ekitike. I think it's because of his willingness to join Manchester United that he is an option. Other options, you look past that, because I've kind of ruled Gyokeres and Osimhen out. I think Osimhen's going to spend all summer looking around Europe to try and find the best possible deal. I don't blame him for doing so. I want him. I wish he would turn around and say, I want to join Manchester United without European football, despite me being the best striker on the market right now, and I want to join. And I think Manchester United would say, absolutely fantastic, let's do a deal. I think Manchester United would be there. But I think he's going to spend all summer looking for the best possible financial package and package that works for him. Maybe not even just financial as well. Like, we know he wants a good financial package, but I think also something that suits him. Where he's at, he probably is the best striker on the market, and I think he's going to take his time. I think Gyokeres is going to hold out for Arsenal, and I don't think Manchester United can afford to wait. Where do United go from there? Do they try and negotiate with Frankfurt with the connection that we have, Christopher Vivell, knowing the sporting director of Frankfurt very well? Do you try and do that, hoping that they're bluffing a little bit on the price and try and grind them down and take a risk on another young striker? Do you go for the proven Premier League striker in Mateta that you know his limits and you know his ceiling, but he's absolutely going to make a difference? Or do they go down the Gonzalo Ramos route? Maybe not done as well as a lot of people expected him to do at PSG, but very versatile, all-round type of striker that United might be able to get the best out of and get a good deal on, considering his age and where he was at before he went to PSG. And the experience he's had at PSG, even though he's not played, the amount of football he probably hoped for, it's still good experience for him to have under his belt, winning that Champions League and everything like that. It's interesting. I don't know where Manchester United are going to go, because they thought they were getting Delap, but that's going to be the saga of the summer. What striker do United go for? And I think they will take the time. I think we're going to get Mbeumo over the line, and Mbeumo will be the first one, the next one that we go for. And I mean, that's been the longest negotiation ever, hasn't it? I mean, it's not, but it feels long, and I just want it to be a here we go now. And then we're going to turn our attention for a striker, and what United can't afford to do is let it drag on. They need to make a decision on this. What do they do? Do they wait for Gyokeres? Do they try with Osimhen, even though it's going to be a long wait? Do they bite the bullet on the price of Ekitike and take the risk? Or do they go down the Mateta, Gonzalo Ramos route? It's going to be interesting to see what United do. I personally, what I would do, and get in the comments down below what you would do, and I'll read a few out, I'd be going down the Mateta route. It's not going to be ridiculous pricing. You know what you're getting. We've not managed to get maybe the top target this summer. We've missed out on it. We ended up getting Cunha. We're hopefully going to get Mbeumo. That is good going. Wait till next year. See what's about then. Go with a safe pair of hands, Mateta. That's what I'd be doing, because he absolutely will make a difference to this team. He knows what he's doing. You know what you're getting. He'll add goals. He adds experience. That's where I'd be going right now. Few people saying Palace are going to ask for a lot of money from Mateta. Not while he's not signed a new contract. They'll still ask for a fair figure. Right now it seems like they are going to be in Europe, but I know there's been a little bit of contention over that with UEFA. Seems like they are going to be in Europe, but he's not signed a new deal and he has a year left on his deal, Mateta. I think, do they have the option to trigger it for another year after that? But it's still that contract situation where they're desperately trying to get him onto a new contract. I'm just going to look it up now, actually. I'm pretty sure it is only 1 year left on his deal, but they've really been trying to get him to sign a new contract. His contract expires in June 2026. They're not going to be able to offer a huge fee for him. They'll demand a decent fee, but I'd say it'd probably be around 50 million max. That's what I think it'd be. And you know what you're getting there. You know you're getting goals. And I'll ask this question, do you bring Rashford back and have him as an option with Højlund and Xerxes and bank on Cunha and Mbeumo, providing a lot behind the striker? It's a question. Get in the comments. I'm moving that onto that as my next topic, because there's some news coming out around Marcus Rashford as well. Lee Cape Town says, hi Beth, as much as I want Gyokeres, I say, let's stop being snobbish. Let's go for Mateta. He will definitely come. He's the type of striker Amorim wants, and that is what we need right now. Maybe not what we want, but what we need. Phil81 says, don't want mercenaries. They don't need to try once the contract is signed. We need players that want to do a job. We are not a cash cow. B16 says, would you honestly not take Gyokeres if Arsenal got Sesko? I find that mad, Beth. You've lost your head. It's not necessarily that I'd say I wouldn't take him if Arsenal went for Sesko. It's not that. I don't want to keep trying to beat a dead horse in hoping we're going to go for Gyokeres while Arsenal decide what they're doing and continue to negotiate with both parties. It's like waiting in the wings. It's like a second option. If you really like someone, right, in life, and they're like, I like you, right, but I'm quite happy, you know, to kind of pursue who I'm with right now and just stay there just in case we break up. Like, come on. Like, you can like them all you want, but you don't want to just sit there waiting in the wings, like sitting waiting for them, you know, week after week, hoping something's going to change. Okay, you know, if Arsenal and Sesko if Arsenal go for Sesko today and Gyokeres is back on the market and United are looking there and things start to progress, I'll get on board with it. But what I'm trying to say is I don't want to wait around all summer beating a dead horse, hoping something's going to happen when he's just waiting to see what happens with Arsenal, because Arsenal aren't in a rush. So it depends on the situation. If Sesko and Arsenal happened this week, then yeah, I'd look at it again. But right, as of now, I think United should be assessing their options and definitely looking at other options. But thank you, everyone, for getting your chats in. Glenn C says, all I've heard so far is that Ekitike is open to joining United like Gyokeres, not that he's giving United priority like the Mbeumo reports. Well, let's see how the story develops on that one. We have Cosmo saying, Wissa, Watkins, Evan Nilsson, Mateta. Jacob Fatu says, Gyokeres reminds me of the Di Maria saga. I don't think Gyokeres would be a Di Maria. I don't think he would. Like, Amorim knows him, he knows his attitude. Amorim's big on attitude, and that's the one that if Gyokeres didn't have a relationship with Amorim, I'd be like, no, after the reports we've heard. But because I know Amorim has a relationship with him, because I know Amorim values attitude, behaviours, personality, that's what would keep my mind open, because, you know, Amorim's so big on that, he wouldn't sign a player that wasn't willing to put in the hard yards and work hard for this football club. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out anyway. But I want to bring in the Rashford situation. So this is the news coming out on Marcus Rashford. So, caught offside. Rashford's resurgence has caught the eyes of clubs around Europe as he has more options than he did in January. But his reported 325 grand a week salary remains an issue. A report from Caught Offside claims Rashford is looking to get around this issue by accepting a pay cut amid interest from 3 Premier League clubs. Tottenham and Newcastle are expected to be 2 names to watch in the Premier League, while sources also named Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Inter Milan and Saudi Pro League clubs as likely suitors. Rashford is keen to leave Man United, and sources high up in the industry believe he'd now accept a pay cut to seal a move away. So, on that pay cut, Marcus Rashford might be willing to take one. That's big news. If it's true, that's big news, because previously it didn't seem like that was going to be on the table, and that really does limit clubs that can come in for Marcus Rashford, because basically no clubs, maybe the odd 1 or 2, would be able to pay Rashford's wage, the contract that we are currently paying him, which is around 325 grand a week. So that opens more doors for clubs to come in and for him to leave Manchester United. And that's massive, because if Rashford takes a pay cut, you've got more options out there. And right now, the options seem very, very slim. It feels like Marcus Rashford is just waiting and hoping that Barcelona are going to come in. But are they going to come in? Rashford and Barcelona, they keep getting linked together, but has there been anything concrete really to come out of that story? Apart from the fact that Rashford would love Barcelona and Barcelona has a long-standing interest in Rashford. But there's been absolutely nothing concrete, and this story has been circulating for a while now. So when it says Tottenham and Newcastle would be names to come up, I could see both of them being interested in Rashford. I could. You know, Newcastle play very fluid front 3. Rashford could be in there. And Tottenham, Son's not getting any younger. You know, they're looking for a left winger, and I know they've just bought Tell, and Tell can play multiple positions, but Rashford could also go there as well. I could see him there. They've got Champions League football. We know that's important to Marcus Rashford. That has been stated. It's why he's not joining Aston Villa, one of the reasons, as well as, you know, his wage and the finances at Villa. And Newcastle also have Champions League football, so they're two clubs to watch. But if Rashford was to go to them, he would absolutely have to take a pay cut. So it just brings more clubs into the orbit of Marcus Rashford who could go for him. And it's massive, because if Manchester United want to do more in the transfer window than Cunha and Mbeumo, we know we've got to sell. You know, Antony needs to go. Sancho needs to go. Rashford needs to go. Garnacho needs to go. But you look at all these players and you've got Garnacho and Rashford, who are both pure profit, so he's excellent on the books. So them two are big in terms of being able to move them on in order to reinvest into the market and bring players in. But also, the big wages. Sancho, huge wage. Antony, pretty big wage. Rashford, massive wage. Getting them off the books as well allows us to look at incomings and be a little bit more free in terms of what players can we get in? Can we go and get a midfielder? Can we go and get a goalkeeper? So it's massive to try and move these players on, and Rashford being willing to take a pay cut brings more clubs into being able to actually go and get him and look at a transfer fee that will do a world of good for Manchester United's books. But I want to ask you guys a question, and this, by the way, before you all jump down my neck, before you go at me in the chat and say, no, Beth, no. I just wanted to bring it in because I thought it was an interesting topic of conversation. So, this is a text message that I got in from, we have a group chat, my dad, me and my brother. It's a footballing group chat. We talk football on there. And my dad put this in the chat the other day. He said, I keep thinking that if I was Amorim, I would try to break through with Rashford, have a conversation with him on form at United with potential signings is so exciting. My brother replied back, very good player, but big attitude issue. I would be wary of doing that. I replied saying, I think the relationship is broken with Amorim, and if it doesn't work out, you're just back in the same place all over again. So, I brought it in. I'm sorry to throw my dad under the bus there. I brought it in because I think quite a few Man United fans will start to think this way. The more this saga goes on with Rashford, with a club, you know, not deep into talks and negotiations with Manchester United for him to move on, the more that you look at it and you think, is there a way back for him at Manchester United under Ruben Amorim? Could Manchester United play on that? You know, from the academy graduate, you know, it still pulls on a lot of heartstrings of Manchester United fans. Is there some sort of redemption story there? Does he get another chance with improved signings? You know, instead of playing with, you know, the players that he had around him beforehand, you're now playing with Mbeumo, you're playing with Cunha. Does he get that opportunity? I still think it's a no. And I agree with my brother in this one. Very good player, but a big attitude issue. I think if Rashford's on form, playing with Mbeumo and Cunha, it is scary. Like, I think that could be fantastic. The issue is the attitude and the behavioural issues. And Ruben Amorim, especially, we've seen him multiple times now be so particular about players' attitudes, the way they behave, and I just think it'll look weak from Ruben Amorim if he does go back on that with Marcus Rashford. We had the whole saga. We had the saga with Marcus Rashford. Every single press conference, Ruben Amorim gets asked about it again and again and again and again. He holds firm. He finally, you know, manages to get rid of him to Aston Villa, and he kind of still gets asked about it, but that weight is lifted off his shoulders. If they do draw a line in the sand and decide to work together again because of the talent he has, and Amorim's always made it clear, Rashford's got the talent, he needs more than that, and it's decisions off the pitch that has been an issue. If he does go back on that and it doesn't work out and then issues start to creep in again, the behavioural issues, and, you know, he's out the squad again, it looks a bit weak from Ruben Amorim in terms of the rest of the squad. So I don't think Amorim would ever take him back, even if Manchester United fans would. And I wanted to ask you guys this and get your comments down below, and I want to kind of read a few of them. If Marcus Rashford was willing to put his hands up, apologise to the fans, apologise to the manager, went to Ruben Amorim and said, look, I've messed up. I had the opportunity of a lifetime to be part of this rebuild. Manchester United is my boyhood club. I've made some bad decisions, but I'm willing to put it right. I want to work hard. I want to be part of this team. I want to be part of this project. I want to be playing for Manchester United, and I want to repay to you, and I want to repay to the fans. Do you give him an opportunity? Because the more it goes on, how many clubs are actually interested in Rashford, and how many clubs are going to give us the money that we want for him? Because are a club going to come in, even if Rashford's willing to take a pay cut, are they going to go and pay 40, 45 million, which is what Manchester United want? Is the juice worth the squeeze, is what I'm trying to ask. So get in the comments down below what you think. I personally, it's a difficult one for me because you can get in my heartstrings quite easily. Like, you really can. But I think we've got to move on. I don't think we can go back into the past, and I will still continue to say it. I think Rashford could go on and smash it somewhere else. I think with Mbeumo and Cunha, he'd be lethal if he was on form. If he got back to his form that we knew him of in the early days, that first year under Ten Hag, he'd be fantastic. But Rashford's not reliant enough to be consistent. And one thing that has been consistent with Rashford is inconsistencies. Same as United, consistently inconsistent. And, when someone shows you who they are, let them. And it's not that I don't think Rashford's a bad person or anything, but I just think that bridge has been burned in Manchester United, and with Ruben Amorim as well. I don't think he'd be able to come back. I don't think he would. But if he did, I wouldn't be worried about his talent. I'd just be worried about off the pitch stuff. That's where it would be. But if it was my preference, I think we need to move on and not try it again. We've done it. We've tried with Rashford. We've gone in many different directions, and it always kind of leads back to just inconsistencies, which is unfortunate. Last thing that I wanted to bring up into the show is Antony. We spoke about Rashford's departure. Antony is another departure that Manchester United have to do, mainly because we need to get his wages off the books. We know we're never going to recoup the transfer fee that we paid for Antony. Another signing that will go down in Manchester United's history as being a bit of a flop. Unfortunate for the player because we never should have paid that amount, and unfortunate for Manchester United because we know how that signing went, and we know how last minute it was, and we know that was under a regime that wasn't effective in the transfer market, and it's unfortunate that ever happened, but this is where we're at and we need to deal with it. And this has come out from ABC Sevilla, and the report on how Betis executives recently travelled to Old Trafford for talks with United officials. During those discussions, a co-ownership agreement was proposed that would see Betis buy a percentage of Antony's rights, with United standing to benefit from a high sell-on clause that would be triggered by any future sale. Betis are unable to meet Manchester United's demands when it comes to a flat fee this summer. Instead, they are willing to part with €20 million, which is £17 million, now or as a purchase obligation in 2026 after a season-long loan. And apparently Antony is also willing to take a pay cut to make the transfer happen. It is claimed that there is a sense among both sides that they are destined to come to an understanding, with Betis eager to keep the 25-year-old on into next season. And what I would say to this is where Manchester United have to up their game in terms of selling players. Look at how much Liverpool are looking to get for Darwin Núñez. I think they're asking for around 70 million for Darwin Núñez. I mean, Antony, we're never going to get that, don't get me wrong. But he's gone and absolutely torn up La Liga. He was the face of La Liga in the second half of the season. He was being on advertisements for La Liga with the likes of Mbappe. Like, I'm not saying he's anywhere near that level because he's not. But he suits the Spanish league. He suits La Liga. He did excellently well over there. And there will be clubs interested. There was reports of Atletico Madrid having interest. There was reports of Juventus having interest. United have to up their game in being able to move players on. We should be able to get, based off Antony's loan spell, 30 to 35 million. And if Betis aren't willing to cough up the money, none of this co-ownership, none of this loan will buy later, none of this you can have some of his image rights, either give us the money or we'll sell him to someone else who is willing to give the money. We're not asking for the fee we paid back. We're not asking for ridiculous money. Antony's even willing to compromise on his wage. We just want what we deserve. And this is where Manchester United cannot be a charity case anymore. It's like turning up to, I was going to say a Porsche garage, but would you really compare Antony to a Porsche? You know, it's like turning up to go and buy, you know, a new 4x4 Kia, nice family car, but you pitch up with what, I don't know, a £10 note and saying, can I pay the rest, like 5p a month for the next God knows how many years? Like, you just can't do it. You've got to get what he's worth. And that's where Manchester United need to, you know, the incomings are looking good. Cunha and Mbeumo, I like the way we're handling the striker situation. We're not going barging in for anyone. We're not being shown up in the transfer window. But the outgoings, we need to get a hurry on and we need to get better at getting the right price for our players. Garnacho, Rashford, Sancho, Antony. It's going to be very telling where this recruitment team are at by how we handle our outgoings this summer. But anyway, guys, that is the news. Let me get Ian Tracy's super chat in. Ian Tracy says, regardless of whether Rashford apologises or not, I don't think he suits Amorim's system. He only really suits a wide forward role, which we don't play. If Rashford was to play under Amorim again, which I don't think he will, it'd be as a striker, in my opinion. Because he proved he could do that at Aston Villa. Hitton Chowdhury says, Gyokeres 100% out, but Omar won't go back on his words. B16 says Auckland City FC could use Rashford. Jacob Fatu, I have done that one. Thank you everyone for getting your super chats in, and make sure you vote on the poll as well. Just to finish off the show, can we see what the poll is on? Greg, if you could tell me what the poll is on for Marcus Rashford. 68% of you say no. That's actually not as many as I thought. I thought it'd be like a 10%. See what I'm telling you? Just the way that my family group chat was saying it, I think more and more United fans, as the window goes on, will start to think about that, which is why Manchester United need to get on with that transfer. I know Rashford wants to wait for Barcelona, but are they actually coming, and where does Marcus Rashford's future lie? We need to start addressing that and getting in contact with clubs and talking to Rashford's camp about how we go about his exit from Manchester United. But look, everyone, thank you for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video if you haven't already. It's great to be back. It felt like a long weekend, even though it was Friday till Sunday. It felt like a long time away. Transfer window back open. I am hoping and praying, I've remained very calm throughout the Mbeumo situation, that we are going to get Mbeumo, and I cannot wait for that signing to happen. I do really think him and Cunha are transformative, which is why I'm not absolutely, you know, breaking down over the striker situation, because both of them two attacking players are absolutely fantastic. So we'll see what happens on that, but it's great to be back, and thank you for everyone for getting the chats in. I will see you on the next one, everyone, and have a lovely week.